Hello and welcome. We're joined now by Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson and Super Bowl champ Mark Schlereth. A great day in Houston just turned bad, where reportedly the Texans are afraid that Deshaun Watson has torn his ACL and could be done for the year after suffering a non-contact injury in practice today.
Wow.
Watson has been great so far, making a very strong case for Rookie of the Year. Cowherd, what's your reaction to this troubling news?
There goes your season. No J.J. Watt. Now no Dwayne Brown at left tackle. Now you don't have Deshaun Watson. It's no chance. I mean, you know what my first takeaway is? Good Lord, did the Patriots get breaks? I mean, I'm watching Houston Sunday against Seattle. I'm like, that's a team that's going to in the AFC now. Pittsburgh, New England, Houston, and now they're done.
They're celebrating in Jacksonville is what I'm thinking right now. Is they're 4-3 and in control of the AFC South. Houston, I thought, was an ascending team. Deshaun Watson, one of the most exciting rookie players.
Oh.
My second thought is, man, the NFL just keeps it bad injury news after bad injury news. J.J. Watt, Aaron Rodgers, Deshaun Watson, Odell Beckham Jr. This seems like the most injury-plagged NFL season.
Well, certainly the stars, yeah.
Well, that's what matters.
There's no question about that. And you look at Deshaun Watson. I was looking at the young quarterbacks that we have in this league, whether it's Jared Goff or Wentz. Deshaun Watson's been unbelievable. Dak Prescott is an unreal player. I mean, the quarterbacking, you can put Russell Wilson as still a young player. The quarterbacking that we have in this league, the young guys, we always ask where the next young crop of quarterbacks, they're here.
Yeah.
And to see Deshaun Watson get hurt is gut-wrenching. It's heartbreaking. He's been hurt before, and he's come back from that. But now my thought is, I understand all those things. My thought is, where do you turn? Because Tom Savage,
no.
Come on. That's not the answer. Is it Colin Kaepernick? His agent came out a couple days ago and said, hey, within 10 days he's going to be signed. Maybe we need to take him to Vegas. But could this be the answer in Houston?
It would certainly score some points for Bob McNair. And I mean, literally, you've thrown a hell of a curveball because just what if Bob McNair doesn't sign Colin Kaepernick and his locker room wants him signed? They've already taken a knee in protest over an innocent idiom spoken that they didn't even hear. What if his locker room wants Colin Kaepernick and decides to protest if they don't sign Colin Kaepernick?
By the way, after I watched Houston on Sunday, Kaepernick, this offense needs legs. I mean, Kaepernick is considered a very capable, mobile.
For 400 yards. They need.
Well, I'm just saying,
Watson.
I've seen the Savage thing. I've seen the Deshaun thing. I would lean more toward guy can move a little. Well, Dwayne Brown's gone at left tackle.
Right.
Tom Savage ain't going to work.
When you look at the Texans, the 3 wins they have because of Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
I mean, without him, like you said, where do they go? Kaepernick is that kind of guy. He can run, he can throw on the run, he can move. You don't want a stature like Tom Savage, a guy that can't move around. So I just feel bad for the Houston Texans because I saw this team like, all right, they're going somewhere. I mean, with an exciting young quarterback, a guy, I thought he'd be Rookie of the Year. I mean, especially after last week. If you didn't see that Seattle game last week and think, this kid should not be Rookie of the Year, after that game, like sometimes we give him the one game, but that was a fantastic game.
Richard Sherman told Peter King this week, he said, no quarterback has done that to us. He goes, I faced Aaron Rodgers, I faced Brady. He goes, nobody's done that to us. This is heartbreaking. To Mark's point, I really think we have some terrific young players. I feel as a consumer, selfishly, I couldn't wait to watch him play.
No, listen. We talked about it on Monday. That was one of the greatest shows we had ever seen. Right. He and Russell Wilson, that show they put on was terrific. The excitement every week to see a Deshaun Watson. And you have to wonder, I mean, and again, I'm sure let's remember, he hurt his ACL in college, I believe in 2014 or 2015. He's recovered from this injury before. But, Mark, as you know, the more injuries you have, the harder they are to recover from. I hope this doesn't derail him from being that great quarterback we thought we saw last week.
It was a non-contact. Is that bizarre?
No. My experience, not only playing and tearing my ACL, but watching other guys tear theirs, the majority of ACL injuries happen in non-contact. It's a hard plant, change of direction, and it pops. Same thing that happened to Ryan Tannehill in practice. You know, it's just one of those situations that happen. Unfortunate. It's the shearing force is just the way you come down. It just is devastating because he was so much fun to watch.
Oh, God.
He is such a young, talented player. And, you know, I mean, now going to be obviously lost for the season.
To New England, where there might have been some serious drama surrounding the Jimmy Garoppolo trade this week. According to an NBC Sports reporter, Tom Brady's relationship with Belichick has soured, and the quarterback was worried that he would be traded by his ruthless coach until Robert Kraft stepped in to make sure Brady stayed in New England. Whitlock, you buy in there's a rift between Brady and Belichick.
I think rift is not the precise word. Tension, a realization perhaps on Brady's part that Belichick is capable of moving on. Listen, when they made this trade at the last minute, it was just for a second-round pick and going to San Francisco, it didn't feel right to me.
Exactly.
And particularly when Adam Schefter reported that the deal wasn't even discussed until that morning. It was put together instantly. That did sound like someone had come in and had to just settle a dispute and say, no, we're trading this guy. We're sticking with Tom Brady for the next 2 or 3 years. And maybe it did. Rift is a strong word, but a disagreement between Brady and Belichick, possibly.
Greatest coach, greatest quarterback, 2 legends. Shaq, Kobe couldn't get along, you know, like 8 years. Like this is what happens. I mean, to me, I would be surprised if there wasn't at some point tension in the relationship. By the way, Eric, you know Brady's close with Robert Kraft.
Man, he's very close to Robert Kraft. We were in Israel this past summer, and we're all on the bus. And Brady called, and he's like,
Kraft.
Hey, Kraft. He called Robert Kraft. He said, hey, what's up, Robert? He said, hey, what's going on, Tom? Had his own speaker. I'm like, nah, this owner loves this player. You can tell. And he owns the football team. No matter what Belichick says, I own the football team. Tom isn't going anywhere till Tom says, you know what, I think I want to retire. I'm ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the interesting thing to me, though, is if you've been trying to negotiate with Jimmy Garoppolo, and you know Jimmy Garoppolo wants an opportunity, and he sees the freak show that is Tom Brady that says, I'm going to play till I'm 44, and you're looking at like, I'm never going to get to play. And, you know, you look at it from that standpoint, the organizations try to negotiate with him. They can't negotiate a contract with him because he wants out. He wants to opportunity to play.
They don't want to franchise him.
Right. You can't, well, you could franchise him, but really you lose the value. You lose the trade value, and you're going to pay him more to be a franchise quarterback and sit behind Tom Brady. So eventually you got to figure out, you got to come to grips with Tom Brady is, I mean, he's still 40 years old. He's still fresh, and he's playing great. And right now he's the NFL MVP. I mean, like what are you going to do?
Also, I really do believe this. I don't think this is a coincidence. In the last 14 days, Carson Wentz had his greatest game as a pro, and Deshaun Watson looked like an unbelievable player. Is Garoppolo sitting there patiently, and he watches Monday Night Football, and he watches Wentz? He goes, okay. Then he turns that game on Sunday, and he watches Deshaun Watson, and he's like, I want to play. Did he go to Belichick and say, Coach, I've been patient. I'm watching all these young guys play. Look, can we make a move here? I've been a good soldier. I'm good enough to start. I've never complained. I've always put water on the flames.
And what if Belichick's answer was, next year? And he told him, next year you're going to get to play. And then Robert Kraft said, no. And Tom Brady said, no. And so maybe, again, Robert Kraft did have to step in here and say, because certainly Jimmy Garoppolo wants to get on the field. You're not going to wait forever. Brady's playing so well. You know, the organization is committed to him. But I honestly do think there probably is a little something here to Belichick might have been, because if you're going to look at the Patriots and their red zone offense, and I'm just telling you, I think Belichick's this much of an assassin. I don't think Brady's great everywhere. I don't think he's as great as he used to be in the red zone because he can't move.
Cluttered. You need a big, little stronger arm.
You need to be able to move to create windows to throw in. What if Belichick was like, you know what, this younger guy, and Kraft had to step in and said, no. Brady has given us discounted contracts.
I've always thought that Brady would finish his career elsewhere. I always thought that.
Not now, though, right?
No, not now. No, I've changed my. Hey, new information. I've changed my opinion.
But I like what Colin said. Is that he sits there, he's watching. Because when you're a player on another team and you watching another guy, you're running back. You say, man, if I had that offensive line, my God, or that quarterback, why come I can't be doing? I could do that. I'm sure he wants to say, I could do that if I had the opportunity. But you know what? I got to give Belichick credit. They didn't send him to Cleveland.
They sent him to San Francisco.
But San Francisco has an upside.
Well,
Cleveland,
Kyle Shanahan, yeah.
Cleveland, you see no future there.
Welcome back. Seth Joyner here, joined now by Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson. Let's move to the 49ers, a franchise I'm starting to dig. Sent shockwaves through the NFL this week, acquiring Jimmy Garoppolo from New England for just a second-round pick. But when asked about his plans for his new quarterback, Niner head coach Kyle Shanahan said something that might surprise you.
Because you've studied Jimmy for such a long time and really kind of feel like you know what he brings to the table, how will you balance the idea of, him learning the playbook with, throwing him out there and trying to see if he could be successful, as opposed to waiting maybe for the rest of the season and not even putting him out there at all?
Yeah, that's why I have no certainty what it will do. That's why I'm taking it one day at a time. And I can't promise you guys that he won't play this week. I can't promise you guys that he'll play this year. It's I know that we have a guy that we're excited about and I know has the ability to really help us and help this team in the future.
Would the Niners be nuts to sit Garoppolo for the rest of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. And now, unless what he's really doing is an indictment of his roster and his offensive personnel.
Right.
And they don't feel like they can protect him. He could get hurt, or they don't want to expose him and have him play poorly the rest of the year and maybe hurt his negotiating power. The guy's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. I think it would be crazy not to play him. You have to put him out there. He's been sitting in New England for several years. I think it would be crazy not to play him, but Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch know their personnel a lot better than I do, and maybe they're afraid of it.
I think you want to kick the tires. I mean, you guys have been in practices. Games and practices are different. I'd like to see him play the Seahawks. I'd like to see him face Aaron Donald. I want to see him in a game. And the other thing is, now that you have your quarterback, you don't need that number 2 pick quite as badly, like a Rosen Darnold potentially. You have your quarterback. So if you won 2 or 3 games and you slipped to 5th or 4th, you could still get a good player. And by the way, there are teams, New England's one of them, that don't necessarily want top 7, 8 picks. They'd rather have second rounders that can pay them less. So I have my quarterback. This is a quarterback draft. I don't need him. I think you want to win by the way.
Number 1 or 2 pick has a lot of trade.
It does, but sometimes you can't get up, if a team's up there that doesn't need a quarterback, sometimes you might, by the way, what if Indianapolis doesn't need one? They want to trade it. So I got my quarterback. I'd like to win a few games, kick the tires, have a really positive vibe into my off-season training.
Go ahead, Seth.
The answer is yes. You got to play him. This quote that he says, I'm not going to put someone out there who I don't think has a chance to be successful. Well, you put C.J. Beathard out there in his rookie year. He doesn't have a shot. You just traded a second-round draft pick for this kid. You can condense a playbook and get him out there and see what he can do. You mean to tell me that you're going to pay this guy a $100 million contract at the end of this season, and he's only started 2.5 games before he got hurt and spot duty throughout the rest of his time in New England? So you mean to tell me that's what you're going to do?
Yeah.
No, you better play him.
I would agree.
Well, think about it. It gives him a double out or a double in. He can say, you know what, I said I wasn't going to play him, and now I'm saying, well, I might play him. So it's not sure. Would you play him? I'm like you said, you have to play him. You got to see what you got.
A lot of these guys from the Patriots leaving, they're not as good. Maybe he was perfect in Belichick's system.
Well, I think Belichick has a system. I think all those players are perfect in his system, really. I mean, look, this is San Francisco. They haven't been good for a long time. I mean, they're 0-8 now. They were, 2-14 the year before. But I still think if you're going to pay, like you said, this guy can get $100 million, or even $50 million, you have to get him out there to see what he can do.
Let me ask you this, though. If you set him out there and he doesn't have success, you've seen talented quarterbacks or just talented players in general not struggle early, and it erodes their confidence and changes who they are?
Well, you know, Kyle Shanahan is a quarterback guy, so he's an offensive-minded guy. The thing is do they have the pieces out there? Do they have the receiving core? You know, do they have the guys to protect him? That's the most important thing. You don't want to get him out there and get him hurt, you know, and like, wow, we spent all this and we got this guy hurt, you know, in game 2. What's this all? I mean, what, game 9? I mean, what's this all about?
San Francisco's in a really good spot. They retained all their picks. So if you, let's say he got hurt, you could draft another quarterback and then have him in your stable for 2 years like the Patriots did, and then you could trade him.
My problem with these quarterbacks that get drafted high and these quarterbacks that move around in trades like this is that insinuation that if we put him out there, we might ruin his confidence. Well, hell, didn't you know that before you drafted him? Didn't you? If you waiting a year when you draft a guy 1 or 2 to find out whether he's going to be okay or not, that's not going to defer what and who he is. Because the same issues that's waiting for him in year 1 are going to be waiting for him in year 2. And if you've got that question about him, if you got that question about his mental strength now, that ain't going to change next year because he's either mentally strong right now or he's not.
Yeah, but I'll still say this. When you think of the New England Patriots, I always think of them as being a system. The system that they run. Is he a system player? Can he go outside the system? Now, he doesn't have, you know, Tom Brady to come in, okay, I'm just a backup. Because you know what? You know this, but what does anybody? The backup looks good the first week, the second week. All of a sudden, NFL defense is like, okay, we know what he likes to do. We know his tendencies. He can't throw downfield. You know, he's not very accurate. He's not good on his feet. He can't run.
All
so
he needs 2 games.
That's it.
That's
2
all
games,
I need
and
to
it's
break
over.
down.
All right, to Cleveland, where the Browns did the most Browns thing ever this week, blowing a last-minute trade for A.J. McCarron by forgetting to notify the league office before the deadline. After the deal fell through, Browns ownership reportedly went nuclear on the front office, but even their obvious incompetence might not be enough to take the heat off Hugh Jackson. With all the craziness in that front office, Hugh has one of the worst starts with a team of any coach ever. Cowherd, will Jackson be a casualty of the Browns in that front office?
Yeah, not his fault, but he shouldn't have taken the job. He was going to get a head coaching job. This is what Mike Dunleavy took the Clippers job. Remember that years ago? And he had just been in Game 7 with the Blazers. So he would have gotten a job. Less competent people than Mike Dunleavy could have gotten a job. I remember when he took the job, and I remember thinking, why would you do that?
Hugh, you're talking about when he took the job.
Yeah, when Donald Sterling ran the Clippers, they were a joke. And I'm like, you're a better coach than the Clippers. Hugh Jackson would have been given an opportunity. I fault him for taking this job. It reeks of desperation.
Well, I agree with you. I thought he shouldn't have taken this job. That's easy for us to say from the comfort of this studio. When you're a black assistant coach in the NFL, you take the job that's offered to you. Because if you don't, again, it's like sometimes your boss will come and offer you a promotion. You say, nah, I really don't want that. Well, they may never offer you another promotion. So you got to take whatever's put out in front of you. Having said that, I think he deserves, they got a chance to go 0-16. And likely will go 0-16. I think he deserves to survive an 0-16 season and to come back for a 3rd year in Cleveland.
I agree with you, but I don't trust Cleveland.
No. And again, if they run out the front office, the new front office is going to want to hire their own coach.
Of course.
You know, to me, Cleveland has never changed. You know, when we played back in the 80s and the 90s, we called it Cleveland. You know what we call Cleveland? The Cleveland Clowns, because they're going to always mess it up. With no doubt they're going to mess it up some kind of way. The only thing that Hugh Jackson maybe have guilt in is not drafting Carson Wentz. But would Carson Wentz be Carson Wentz
That's not on you, though.
But I'm saying, would he be? But you know, it's always the head coach's fault. You know, it's always, well, the head coach, he wanted him, he didn't want it. Then did he want Deshaun Jackson? Another one.
Deshaun Watson.
I mean, Deshaun Watson, you know, that one. But, you know, would he be Deshaun Watson in Cleveland? You know, no. No. Would Carson Wentz be Carson Wentz in Cleveland? No. Just by name. That's it. Not by play.
Well, the question is, will Hugh Jackson be a casualty of an inept Browns front office? And my answer is absolutely. Listen, I love Hugh. I think he's a phenomenal coach. And I agree with you, Jason. You know, he took that job with the Raiders out of desperation, and he's taking this job in Cleveland out of desperation because these opportunities for black coaches don't come around that often. So you got to take them when you can get them. I feel for him because, this Cleveland organization came out a few years ago and said that, we're going to be the forefront in analytics. My question to the panel is, how's that working out for him right now? Because you still got to have some football people that understand football and understand how football is played. I haven't seen an analytic make a tackle, throw a touchdown, catch a pass, and
or
don't
filed paperwork for a trade.
Well, absolutely. And there you go. And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I think that there is a place for analytics in the game of football, but not like baseball. It doesn't control football that way because of the physical nature of the game and your inability to really have the metrics to measure football players and what their motivation is, whether they're playing for money, whether they're playing because they want to be great, to measure their intellect, because I've seen a lot of people not do well on a Wonderlic test, but really be, really solid intellectually from a football standpoint. And more than anything, what's their motivation? Well, you can't measure that.
Well, once you get out there, the motivation is, you want to defeat the man in front of you or the defense in front of you. I mean, it's always like that. And you're right, that analytic stuff on football, you can't measure a guy's heart. Mm-mm. You can't measure, but when a guy get hit in the mouth and the guy's talking to you, you ain't gonna do this today. You're like, oh, okay. In your mind, you're like, you might have a bad look. Yeah. But in your mind, like, man, he right. I can't do this today.
I think sometimes we forget, too. We all know in college sports there are certain traditions, Ohio State football, Duke basketball, that just win. I think there's more of that in pro sports. When's the last time the Steelers were awful? Or Denver? I mean, by and large, the Celtics have historically been well run. So have the St. Louis Cardinals. Remember, much like college sports, pro sports has the same owners. Smart owners hire smart GMs, hire smart coaches. Cleveland's poorly run. Denver, Pittsburgh, well run. So, I understand what you're saying about opportunities, but Cleveland is, Albert Breer on our show, The Herd, a couple days ago, said Sam Darnold, basically came out and said Sam Darnold won't go to Cleveland. I strongly would submit to any young quarterback, don't go to Cleveland.
I completely defend your position of he should have waited, even though I know it's very hard, because he knew that group of analytics guys was waiting on him in Cleveland. That was already predetermined. They had some things going well in Cincinnati with him as the offensive coordinator.
Very well.
Working with Andy Dalton. And so likely he would have gotten another shot. But one thing I think, I used to call Hugh, got upset. I'm a big fan of Hugh, but I used to call him Hubris Jackson. And his ego gets in the way, and he wanted to be a coach right now. And I can remember Jeff George wanted to play desperately for the Indianapolis Colts, come home, and was like, man, you're going to take all, this is when Bob Irsay was running the team, like, you're going to take all that on. You're going to be the guy. And sometimes people's ego, and Hugh's ego thought he could be bigger and better.
He could overcome all of Cleveland's chaos, and
absolutely.
You can't. Belichick was fired there.
Absolutely.
Welcome back, Mark Schlereth. Eric Dickerson are here. Let's move to Cam Newton. Big game this week, by the way, versus Atlanta. Made it very clear he was not happy to see one of his good friends, maybe his best friend, top target Kelvin Benjamin, be traded to the Bills. Here's Cam Newton's reaction to the trade.
My feelings are irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? We got one job to do. That's win football games, and I'm up to that task. At the end of the day, life goes on. I don't want no sob story. I don't think they're gonna have a parade. When I leave here. You know what I'm saying? It's still gonna be football on Sunday.
All right, Whitlock, you concerned about Cam's mindset moving forward after that trade?
I'm always concerned about Cam's mindset. Look, that's been a topic of conversation before he got into the NFL. It certainly became a topic of conversation after he lost the Super Bowl. And then we've seen many things this year. So there's always concern. I did kind of like the beginning of that comments that he was saying in terms of like, hey, we're here to win football games. My feelings don't matter. I'm here to do a job. I hope he can follow through on that. But it's a struggle. With Cam, it's day to day.
Well, I call him roller coaster Cam because you get a lot of emotions. I'll give Carolina's ownership and front office and coaching staff credit. A lot of people don't like riding roller coasters. We've all had people in our family, I'm not riding the roller coaster. Carolina knew going in probably very early in this process that Cam is an emotional player. And you've said before, he's almost a wide receiver that plays quarterback, very emotional, like a perimeter player. But to their credit, they've handled it pretty well. Hasn't been a lot of chaos around him. And like you, I always worry a little bit about Cam's mental state, but I just think this is who he is, and I think Carolina's sort of figured out how week to week to maneuver around Cam's bigness and emotions. They're pretty good at it.
God, Cam Newton. I like Cam. You know, and he doesn't always see the perfect things, but to me, this was the perfect answer. I mean, you could nitpick it and say, you know, I didn't like us. He said this, that, but when you lose a player, a guy, you could tell that's his boy, Benji. He calls him Benji. You know, that's his guy. It's tough. I mean, you know, when I was traded, it was tough on guys. When I seen guys get traded, when we lost Chris Hinton, you know, we lost Andre Rison, you know, because we got Jeff George. I mean, and he's right. We didn't even know, like, that's our best offensive lineman. That's our best receiver. I mean, it hurts, but you have to go on. And he said it best. You know, when I leave here, they ain't gonna throw no parade. It's football as usual. It doesn't make a difference. You know, the guys will say what they say. It's never gonna be perfect to anyone. No one's gonna always like what you say about it, but like you say, it's football as usual, and that's what it is.
And players, I think the one thing that it just illustrates, players are human. You know, we like players to act like they're not human,
Exactly.
right? I mean, ultimately, I always get guys, oh, you know, the football field is a sanctuary for my problems. Not for me, it wasn't. Like, if I had a problem at home, man, I'll carry it on the football field. I won't play very well. Like, I want to make sure things are right in my life. And it's hard because you do develop those relationships. With that said, you've got to be able to move on. You've got to be able to do that. And part of me wonders if this is Carolina, the first move in Carolina moving on.
That's what Whitlock said.
Right. It just feels to me, there's part of this that feels to me like Cam Newton is never going to be a polished pocket passer. He's one of the most exceptional athletes, one of the most exceptional players at being athletic and doing the things that he does. And that is unsustainable. You cannot survive in this league. The guys that play defense, you know better than I, when you have a ball in your hands, those guys are trying to torch you. So I think they get to the point where they're like, for us to be successful, it's not about your favorite receiver. It's about what we do scheme-wise, what we do schematically as far as the option stuff, the zone option stuff, the passing game, the play action stuff, the 10-12 quarterback runs that we design during the course of a game. That's how we're going to be creative, and that's how we're going to win football games with Cam Newton as our quarterback, and that's not a long-term solution.
I actually like the football move of it. I mean, I like McCaffrey, Samuels. Like, they're making this move saying, we've got all this speed. Okay, Benjamin's not a speed guy. He struggled with weight. We need to be faster. So they're actually making a move. Their kind of thing is, listen, we know you're best friends. We know you rely on him. We're gonna kind of exercise some,
taking him out of his comfort zone.
Exactly, and that's not a terrible thing.
It's not, but we're talking about Cam Newton and getting him out of his comfort zone. We'll see how that plays out in the first half against Atlanta, because if it doesn't go well, Cam could throw an on-field tantrum that, you know, again, it won't be the most visible thing,
right,
but he could start pouting and his energy could come down. The towel over his head could come down a little bit hard. It'll be interesting how this plays out.
Do you remember when the Patriots got rid of Deion Branch or didn't sign Deion Branch? He was a Super Bowl MVP, and Brady was really upset about it.
Yeah.
You know, the difference is Brady, you know, moves on and they are, you know, they figure it out, and it's kind of business as usual. But that was one of the first glimpses that we got into Bill Belichick, is this is what we do here as an organization.
Russell Wilson lost Percy Harvin, Golden Tate, Marshawn Lynch. I mean, this is the way the world works.
The football is a business. That's what it comes down to. I mean, it really is, and that's what it is. You said it best, Mark, is that we as players, we have feelings. I mean, players get their feelings hurt also. I mean, we don't like things that's said about us a lot of times. I mean, and it is. I mean, like you said, when you lose your friend on the team, you know, he'll call him and talk to him.
You're sensitive now.
Everybody, you know.
You're very sensitive. I knew that about you, Eric. You're very
But you're really sensitive when the left tackle can play. Really
I'm just letting you know that we have feelings too.
Right.
We have feelings too.